If your first instinct upon seeing the title, The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, is to say, well, that's a mouthful, rest assured that Mike Newell's film has you covered, for his secondary character does the very same. Indeed, pretty much everyone in this crumbly oatmeal biscuit of a movie does and says exactly what you'd expect of them, based not on the logic of real life, of course, but the cozy conventions of umpteen twee heritage Britpics before it. For Sunday afternoon comfort viewing purposes, it's no problem that Guernsey, which follows the post-World War II escapades of a winsome London writer, Lily James, on the eponymous isle, isn't stray from its inevitable course as a town versus country love triangle. That it offers no surprises as a nominal wartime mystery, however, is rather more bothersome, particularly as what should be a perky trifle trudges past the 2-hour mark. You already know what books can do. The heroine is advised in The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, which itself arrives on screen with some assurance on that front. Based on a posthumously published 2008 bestseller by U.S. author Marianne Schaefer and co-writer Annie Barrows, it's one of those films rather perversely dedicated to celebrating the power of the written word, even as it jettisons reams of its source material in the name of cinematic simplicity. Perhaps not even cinematic, Guernsey plays in many respects like a scaled-down miniseries, standing it in good stead for its Netflix release in the U.S. and other territories. Schaefer and Barrows' short, breezy novel wasn't aiming for Bronte to begin with, but it's received soapier treatment still in the slick hands of co-writers Don Roos, some way from The Opposite of Sex, Thomas Bezucha, The Family Stone, and Kevin Hood, Becoming Jane. Between them, they've disentangled the novel's dramatic and romantic complications to a fault, if it's possible to merely amble in place. That's what the storytelling in Guernsey does for protracted stretches of screen time. At least that uber-quirky title is explained up front. The society in question is named as an imagined alibi by the eldest and drunkest Tom Courtenay of several merry revelers out past curfew on the Nazi-occupied island. After the fact, it becomes a makeshift book club and an outlet for revolutionary spirit among friends, led by defiant firebrand Elizabeth Jessica Brown Findlay. Several years and some key traumas later, sturdy-hearted farmer Dossie Adams, McKeel Hoosman, writes about the society to successful London journalist and author Juliet Ashton James, having found her name inscribed in one of their moldering second-hand volumes. To the consternation of her editor, Sidney Matthew Good, and American military boyfriend Mark Glenn Powell, she's compelled to visit Guernsey for herself, though not before accepting the latter's marriage proposal. One look at Usman's pained puppy dog eyes, however, should be enough to tell any sentient viewer that this engagement isn't likely to prove binding. Hitting her whopper of a rock and cheerfully taking to the country air, Juliet gradually ingratiates herself with Dossie and the society's other members, including lonely gin-maker Isola, a fine Catherine Parkinson, deepening and dignifying a slender sad sack part, and fretful, clammed-up mother bear Amelia, Penelope Wilton. The more embedded she gets, the more the nervously unexplained absence of Elizabeth gnaws at her. Let the amateur detective work begin. The problem, however, is that the circumstances of her disappearance are neither particularly intriguing nor, as the rather straightforward investigation unfolds, terribly surprising. Juliet's sleuthing strategy consists mostly of asking the same questions of the same people until they get honestly answered, while nittier-grittier details are thanklessly delegated to Mark, mostly off-screen, in London. Ms. Marple would have this licked in a morning, with time left over for tea and crumpets. It's so compelling, Juliet exclaims as yet another pointlessly buried secret comes shruggingly to light, the script by this point actively straining to convince audiences to agree with her. Happily, the relatively untaxing nature of her snooping affords Juliet plenty of time to devote to the equally urgent matter of chastely bonding with Dossie in his fields, glazed and buttery, improbable perma-sunlight by cinematographer Zach Nicholson. Less happily, James and Hoosman, both appealing, personable performers in their own right, never quite spark as a pairing, their supposed soul connection playing largely as polite rapport. If James carries proceedings with amiable pluck, Games of Thrones star Hoosman, his accent ebbing and flowing with the Guernsey tides, is less comfortably cast in these twinkly surrounds. Their chemistry deficit makes ensemble MVP Powell, cannily mixing American abroad glibness with harder flashes of feeling, seem doubly hard done by. At least everyone looks splendid in costume designer Charlotte Walters' perfectly cinched 1940s fashions, which give a rakish movie star hang even to a Guernsey farmer's baggy sackcloth trousers. That her ace duds here recall her lovely work on last year's Their Finest, however, rather underlines how little else in Newell's film matches the bittersweet blitheness of that similarly pitched wartime jaunt. Undemanding yet never quite effortless, agreeable yet never quite engrossing, the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society has fewer stumbling points than its loopy title, but the title sticks for longer than the rest.